Okay, so we're making Nigerian Efo Riro soup, which is suitable for the keto diet. Obviously, low carbs. The keto diet is so this will make around 8 servings, and each serving will have 5 grams of carbs and 240 calories per serving. So, yeah, these are the ingredients. So, here we've got half a kilogram of prawns. We have 60 grams of ground crayfish, and we have around 88 grams of onion, 100 grams of tomato puree. We have olive oil. So typically people would just use palm oil, but because we're trying to be healthy and again we want to minimize the fat too. We use some olive oil and we also use some palm oil. So we use 1 tablespoon of palm oil, what you see there, and then you've got ground pepper, thyme, black pepper, and salt. And then here you've got 1.2 kilograms of spinach. So that's the prep. So I've done the prep and I've weighed everything out. So all we're going to do now is add it to the pot. So first you add the onions and the oil. Just pour, mind you, this is for 8 portions, so it looks like a lot of oil, but it's not. And now we add the tomato puree. Then we add the palm oil. Now, I definitely recommend, palm oil tastes really good, but you need to minimize this, which is why we're using 1 tablespoon because it's very high in saturated fat. In fact, palm oil has 49% saturated fat, and olive oil has around 14% saturated fat. So there's a big difference there. And then, yeah, I'll just put all the seasoning in. And we'll also add the ground prawns, ground crayfish. And we're going to stir this and let that fry for a bit. And then we'll add in the fresh prawns. Really is that simple. Okay, so I also added the 4 Maggi cubes that you saw laying there. And we'll stir that for a while. And then cover it to allow the pepper and onions and everything to fry together. Again, this is really low carb, so we didn't want to put too many onions in there. We don't want to put too much onions, and we don't want to put sweet peppers or garlic because they are high in carbs. And this is for a low carb diet. It's definitely important that you turn the bottom of the pot every few minutes. So what we're now going to do, so that's been around 7 minutes. Now what we'll do is we'll add in the fresh prawns so that it doesn't get too dry, and the prawns can of course absorb the flavor. So we'll add that in, and we're going to stir it into the thick stew, the ground prawn stew, and we'll leave that in for another 10 minutes or so. But again, keep stirring in the process. Okay, so here we used king prawns, by the way, and that's really all the ingredients. There's just one more ingredient left, and it's the spinach, which will be added right at the end. And again, you want lots of spinach because again, it's really healthy and it's really low in carbs, so it's definitely worth having lots of that. Put it on the low fire so it doesn't burn, and cover it with the prawns for around 10 or 15 minutes. But again, keep stirring every few minutes so that the bottom of the pot doesn't burn. By the way, here's the palm oil, the red oil, the olive oil, and the ground crayfish there. So that's what we used. Now look at this, that's been around 10 minutes. So as you can see, the prawns have fried really well, and the tomatoes and everything has pretty much blended quite well together. Just turn it. You can see the bottom of the pot is not burnt too, which is good. So now what we're going to do is we are going to add spinach. Now we've used frozen spinach, and this is really good because it's just easy to just take it out of the freezer and throw it into the pot. You could do it with fresh spinach. In the end, it will give the same result. So we're going to add the frozen spinach now. So there you have it. I've added in the frozen spinach, and we need to mix it in. The good thing is this was left out to thaw for a while, and I managed to remove some excess water. What we're going to do now is stir this in, and again leave it for another 10 minutes or so. Previously it was around 25 minutes, so we'll add another 10 minutes once this is stirred in. Okay, so we've added the frozen spinach. Well, this actually wasn't frozen because it was left to thaw. If it is completely frozen, then what you need to do is leave it in for a while and then turn it once it softens. But we managed to turn everything, so what we're going to do now is cover it for another 10 to 15 minutes. But in the process, just make sure you stir the bottom of the pot every few minutes so that nothing burns. And that's covered. Okay, so I've opened the pot here. That was 15 minutes. As you may notice, there might be some excess water, so it's a good idea to leave the pot open so that that water can evaporate and you're left with a thick spinach Efo soup. I also suggest adding a small amount of garlic salt, since you can't add garlic on the keto diet. Garlic salt is, again, low in carbs. So I've got half a teaspoon here, which I'm going to add just for a small amount of flavor. And then I'm going to mix that. I'll go to mix that now. There, so I've mixed that in. Personally, I'm a big fan of garlic, and on low carbs you can't have garlic, so what I've done is I've used the garlic salt. But if you don't have garlic salt, you can just, depending on how salty you like your food, you can add just maximum half a teaspoon, I'd say, of regular salt. So we're going to leave that open so that the water you see there can evaporate and leave us with a thick Efo Riro soup. Okay, and there you have it. Nigerian Efo Riro vegetable soup. Very healthy because there's lots of spinach and you've got the prawns. So as you can see, it's done now and it looks good. The prawns are fried, the spinach is fried. I mean, this is low carb, so this serves up to 8 portions, and each portion, like I said before, has 5 grams of carbs and 240 grams of calories. You can also add other things into here like dry fish, locust beans. Yeah, I mean, you can even add snail, whatever you want, you can add it to this. I decided to keep it really simple because of the keto diet, and just add prawns and dry prawns. So ground crayfish and fresh crayfish. And that's it. Done. And you can have this with pounded yam or eba, whatever you want to have it with. Sorry, I meant to say 240 calories for one serving. One thing I do suggest actually is you take this pot, empty out on the scales, and check, if you're doing a keto diet, and check the total weight and divide it by 8, and then assume that's one portion. Okay, the end.